Boeing 307 Stratoliner. Historical highlights. 1. Background. 2. First flights. 3. Howard Hughes version. 4. World War II C-75 version. 5. Post-World War II operations. 6. Surviving Stratoliners. 7. Real-life footage. 1. Background. From the mid-1930s, USA Airlines wanted a long-range airliner that could fly above bad weather. PAA, UA, AA, EAL and TWA all tried with the proposed Douglas DC-4, but technical, cost and performance issues led to them cancelling. Boeing then came up with the 307 Stratoliner. Largely forgotten, maybe because only 10 were made, it was very successful and pioneered several aviation records. 1. First four-engine, non-seaplane U.S. airliner. 2. First pressurized, climate-controlled cabin. 3. First supercharged engines. 4. First hydraulic elevators and rudder. 5. Widest, most comfortable, fastest, longest range, highest capacity airliner at the time. The Stratoliner could cruise at 350 km per hour at 20,000 feet, compared to the DC-3's 260 km per hour at 8,000. It commonly had 2 pilots, a flight engineer, an optional navigator, and 2 flight attendants. It could carry 33 passengers and, with later modifications, 60. The Stratoliner used many parts from the World War II Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, which was under development at the time. But the Stratoliner's fuselage was much wider. It was dubbed the Flying Whale for its portly lines. It was also called a stratoclipper. Strato comes from stratosphere, the second from the surface of the Earth's atmospheric layers. Development of the later World War II B-29 Superfortress pressurization system stemmed from the Stratoliner, and this successful bomber was the first mass-production pressurized aircraft. A total of 10 Stratoliners were made after the prototype in 1939 and 1940, 4 for PAA, 5 for TWA, and later on, 1 for millionaire Howard Hughes. 2. First flights. KBFI King County International Airport, Boeing Field, Seattle, Washington, USA. Famous, historic Boeing Field, freeware scenery. Prototype Boeing 307 Stratoliner, local legend MS, Aeroplane Heaven payware, freeware livery. The unpressurized prototype Stratoliner first flew from famous Boeing Field on the 31st of December, 1938. It flew for 42 minutes. Later, the first pressurized flight by the first of 10 production aircraft was on the 20th of June, 1939. Why was there such a long time between the first unpressurized and pressurized flights? Well, the prototype crashed near Boeing Field on the 18th of March, 1939, killing all 10 on board. These included representatives from TWA, KLM, and the Netherlands, and top pilots and engineers from Boeing. At 11,000 feet, while conducting stability tests during side slips, the aircraft stalled, spun, and dived into the ground. The crash of the prototype resulted from initial lack of stability, followed by structural breakup during the subsequent dive. It led to delays and the need for a larger dorsal fin and rudder. The wings were also strengthened, slots were added to the outer wing leading edges, and the inboard flaps were extended. In early 1940, airworthiness-approved type certificates were issued, and commercial deliveries commenced. During a TWA test flight on the 17th of May, 1940, while carrying dignitaries in overcast conditions, 3 of the 4 engines failed, and the 4th was losing power due to icing. The aircraft belly landed in a field just south of Lamar, Colorado, with virtually no injuries. Boeing had deliberately restricted the carburetor intake heaters to prevent cooking the engines. After this crash, the carburetor heating was modified to make de-icing more effective. 3. Howard Hughes version. A special model Stratoliner, built for millionaire Howard Hughes, was test flown on the 13th of July, 1939. It had more powerful engines and extra fuel tanks for a possible around-the-world flight planned by Hughes to beat his own previous 1938 record in a Lockheed Super Electra. The flight never took place because of the advent of World War II. The Hughes Stratoliner was stored at the then Grand Central Airport, Glendale, California. The airport is long gone, but the original lovely terminal remains, and the former runway is now Grand Central Avenue, which we are flying along now. The original terminal is the brown building in the brown patch under the aircraft's right wing. The Hughes Stratoliner had an amazing history after World War II. More on that later. 4. World War II C-75 version. During World War II, TWA Stratoliners were modified and taken into USAAF long-range international service as the camouflaged C-75. PAA Stratoliners were retained by the airline, with their crews and colors flying under charter for the USAAF Air Transport Command. All 8 aircraft survived their wartime service. Two main routes were flown, between Washington, D.C. and Cairo, across the South Atlantic, and between New York and Prestwick, across the North. They often flew non-stop between Gander and Prestwick, in the north, and between Natal and Accra, in the south. A refueling stop at Ascension Island was added in the South Atlantic. In the north, stops at Iceland or Greenland were often necessary when flying west, against unusually strong prevailing winds. Before the Stratoliners were replaced by other aircraft in 1944, they had completed over 3,000 transoceanic crossings, with only one minor accident. Gander Airport in Canada and Prestwick Airport in Scotland, opposite ends of the World War II North Atlantic route, have very interesting histories. See my earlier videos left-hand side. 5. Post-World War II operations. For a year before World War II, and about 5 years after the war, TWA used Stratoliners on USA domestic routes, until they were replaced by other aircraft. The map shows the pre-war route, which replaced the original T-80 48-hour coast-to-coast service, which used aircraft during the day, and trains at night. After the war, extra cities were added to this route, as well as the introduction of entirely new routes. For more on TAT, Transcontinental Air Transport, see my earlier video. For a year before World War II, and about 3 years after the war, PAA also used Stratoliners, until they were replaced by other aircraft. Unlike TWA, PAA did not exclusively assign their aircraft to specific routes, and instead they were used for their flights between the USA, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. 6. Surviving Stratoliners. The sole intact Boeing 307 Stratoliner, PAA Flying Cloud, is preserved in flying condition, alongside very many other famous aircraft, at the large Smithsonian Air and Space Museum Annex, located next to Dulles International Airport, near Washington, D.C. After World War II, Howard Hughes converted his Stratoliner, which had been in storage during the war, into the Flying Penthouse with a luxury interior. A 1965 hurricane nearly destroyed it, and it was sold as scrap. The then new owner converted the front fuselage into a luxury motorized houseboat. After then changing owners a few times and being further damaged, the current owner is asking aviation museums across the US to help get the planeboat restored. 7. Real-life footage.
The Stratoliner, a 20-ton giant among planes. 33 passengers may be taken aloft to the substratosphere and hurled through space in noiseless comfort. The door opens inwards and can't be opened once the ship is high on its course, where pressure from within seals it fast. 43,000 pounds to be exact, and 4 motors to lift them with power greater than the mightiest locomotive can develop. A flight crew of 3 controls the monster. It is the captain who turns and whose hand opens wider the throttle. Wide open. Watch her go. Sustained flight at 20,000 feet is made comfortably possible by a new device, the supercharger, which the captain now turns on to warm up while the great ship gains altitude. The dashboard seems complicated, but each man knows it like a book. No daredevils these, but highly trained and tested men, worthy indeed of their high calling. At a speed better than 4 miles a minute, the ship moves on and up to its courses, 16 to 20,000 feet above sea level. But the higher, the smoother for the passengers. They are leaving the weather behind, or rather below them, free from the turbulence which envelops this old world's troubled surface. And as they climb higher, the atmosphere becomes an ever deeper blue, as the storms that plague the land and sea are left far below. Time now to speed up the supercharger, as the 3 hands of the altimeter show we've reached a height of nearly 18,000 feet. It isn't that the air up here is different. There's just less of it. The flight engineer will now set the supercharger full on to produce within the ship the atmospheric pressure and the quota of oxygen per breath to which we groundlings are accustomed. Wing de-icers, unseen, are also at work, while at these intakes, the rarefied air is scooped up, conveyed to the supercharger, and sent on in condensed and conditioned flow to cabin and cockpit. At 240 miles per hour, appetites too are quickened. The menu is only slightly modified for altitude's sake. Whipped cream, for instance, collapses at 8,000 feet. But the staples of a full-course meal are served, and no air sickness overtakes so high-flying a ship. From the deep blue sky of day to the dark velvet of night, the Stratoliner moves above the moonlit clouds. And now the captain will turn the ship over to the autogyro pilot. Surpassing man in sensitiveness, it keeps the ship on a level and constant direction, while we may watch decorously as at least 1 little passenger is prepared for sleep, and another in the charm room soon will be, while a 3rd will sit up with her dreams. No sleepwalker need fear, for the flying hotel is sealed for sleep, except for the watchful, valiant men of the air, whose vigilance makes safe the highways that popular science has flung high above the clouds.